I put both hands up in the air to shield my face. A guy in a football jersey slapped his palms against mine. "Yee-haw!" shouted the player who high-fived me. "Dink, you rule!" Huh? The guy looked vaguely familiar to me. He was wearing a green Philadelphia Eagles football jersey. I looked down. So was I. What the heck was going on? I didn't have a whole lot of time to think about it, because a few seconds later the rest of the Eagles had run over and were jumping on me, pounding me and telling me I was the man. Photographers swarmed around, blinding me with flashes. A stadium full of people were on their feet screaming, "Dinkelman! Dinkelman! Dinkelman! Dinkelman!" "Dink!" yelled the guy who high-fived me. "That was the awesomest catch I've seen in my life." "What?" "Look for yourself," he said, pointing at a giant screen in the corner of the stadium. I watched as the ball was snapped and the quarterback of the Eagles dropped back to pass. A guy on the other team, it looked like the 49ers, broke through the line and was about to tackle him, but the quarterback spun away and scrambled out of the pocket. Then he heaved a long bomb. At that point, the video slowed down so you could see the laces turning as the ball arched toward the end zone. The receiver left his feet and dove, full extension, catching the ball with his fingertips a couple of inches above the ground. Somehow he held on to it, even though he was creamed immediately by the guy covering him. After he caught it, the receiver got up, looking a little dazed, and spiked the ball. One of his teammates ran over and gave him a high five. Then he just stood there in the end zone, like me, standing there in the end zone. I touched my nose. The guy on the screen touched his nose. I stuck out my tongue. The guy on the screen stuck out his tongue. I turned around. It said Dinkelman on the back of the guy's uniform. The guy on the screen was me. I was still woozy. Two of the Eagles put their arms around me and helped me to the sideline. "Where's Professor Psycho?" I asked him. "Where's the funnel cake?" "Professor who?" one of the guys said. "Are you okay, Dinkelman? We need you, man. This is the Super Bowl." That hit on the head scrambled his brains. "You remember me, right, Dink?" said the guy who had first high-fived me. "Lionel? We've been best friends since we were kids. I was your backup on the high school team. I was your backup in college. And now we're on the Eagles together. Right?" I looked at the guy. It was Lionel. He looked as if he were 10 years older. What was he doing here? Something was seriously wrong. In the stands, maybe 80,000 people were giving me a standing ovation, but all I felt was a sense of relief. There was no haunted house here, no Professor Psycho performing bizarre medical experiments on me, no Ivan. I was big, I was strong, I had muscles. I would make an awesome lacrosse player. I felt my face. I had a mustache, but it felt like my face. I didn't have a face transplant. Dinkelman, Dinkelman, Dinkelman. "We love you, Trip." I looked up at the scoreboard. Philadelphia 27, San Francisco 24. Fourth quarter. My miraculous catch must have put the Eagles ahead. "Coach, I think Dink needs some help," Lionel told a guy who was wearing street clothes and headphones. "He may have had a concussion." "Dinkelman, how many fingers am I holding up?" the coach asked me. "All of them," I replied. They lowered me to the bench, and somebody handed me a glass of water. "Trip, you've done all you could for us," the coach told me. "You're finished for the day. Lionel, if we get the ball again, I'm going to need you in there at wide receiver." "Yes, sir," Lionel said, putting on his helmet. Our kicker kicked the extra point to make it 28-24. The 49ers returned the kickoff to their 40-yard line. There were 3 minutes left on the clock. and the 49er quarterback didn't waste a second of it. He completed a series of quick, short passes to the sidelines and stopped the clock when his receiver stepped out of bounds. A field goal wasn't going to beat us. The 49ers needed to score a touchdown, or we would be Super Bowl champions. The clock was ticking down. They had the ball on our 20-yard line when their quarterback faked a handoff, rolled right, and took off down the sideline. A few good blocks and a few missed tackles later, he was diving into the end zone. Philadelphia 28, San Francisco 30. The 49ers kicked the extra point to make it 31-28. The 2-minute warning was given. Automatic timeout. What had been euphoria on the Eagles bench had turned into gloom. The coach gathered us all around him in a huddle. "You remember what happened to us last season, right?" he said. "We finished 0-16. Remember the game where the Packers humiliated us 64-0? The players nodded their heads solemnly. "And you know what happened to us this season, right?" he continued. "We went 16-0. We went from worst to first. Worst to first. Worst to first," the players chanted. "And do you know why we went from worst to first?" the coach asked. "'Cause we worked hard," Lionel shouted. "Yeah, that had a lot to do with it," the coach agreed. "What else?" "Was it because the Green Bay Packer bus went over a cliff?" "That had a lot to do with it too," said the coach. "And what else?" "Those aliens came and gave us special powers," some other guy said. "Yeah, that helped too. But I think we all know the number one reason why we're here playing in the Super Bowl today. It's because of Coach Lip." Everybody bowed his head. Some were sniffling. "There's no need for me to go back and rehash the tragic Frisbee accident at Hoover Dam," the coach said. "We all know what happened." "The coach had that Frisbee in his hands," Lionel said. "And we've got this game in our hands," the coach said. "We can grab it or we can drop it. That's going to be up to you. But whatever you do, let's dedicate these last 2 minutes to Coach Lip. Let's win this one for the Lipper. Lipper, 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 Lipper." We returned the kickoff to our 35-yard line. Decent field position, but we knew we weren't going to be trying for a field goal to tie it up. Oh no, we were going for the 6 points. We were going for the win. Our offense moved the ball to the 45, to midfield, to the 49ers' 30-yard line. Lionel, who had replaced me, made a couple of good catches, but the clock was ticking down. There were 30 seconds left, and the goal line was still so far away. The team went into a hurry-up offense and snapped the ball while the 49ers were still setting up their defense. Lionel raced down the left sideline. The quarterback whipped the ball to him at the 20. He caught it, faking out one defender and dashing to the 10. He was hit hard there by two guys, and he collapsed to the ground. Lionel didn't get up. There were 5 seconds left on the clock when the coach called time. We all ran out to help. Lionel was holding his leg and moaning. "I think it's broken," he cried. They carried him off the field on a stretcher, but we couldn't focus on him now. There were 5 seconds left in the Super Bowl, and we had the ball on the 7-yard line. "Trip, can you go out there?" the coach asked me. "Me?" I said, as the Eagle team doctor came over. "Dinkelman has a probable concussion," the doctor told the coach. "He should not set foot on this field. He should be in the hospital with Lionel. If Tripp goes in there and gets a good shot to the head again, well, he might be permanently brain damaged." "What do you want to do, Tripp?" the coach asked me. I mumbled, "want to go home?" "He's obviously in no position to make this decision," warned the doctor. "Okay," said the coach. "We'll let his wife make the decision." "My wife?" At that moment, this pretty blonde girl was brought over. Wait a minute. I recognized her. She was the girl who had rescued me from Professor Psycho at the haunted house. It was Carrie. She was my wife? Are you okay, honey? She asked, cradling my head in her hands. Uh, yeah, I told her. Do you still have that cool laser pointer? Laser pointer, she asked. What are you talking about? He's delirious, Mrs. Dinkelman, said the doctor. Trip, look at me, Carrie said, as I gazed into her deep blue eyes. The guys need you now. Every man on this team has worked and struggled and practiced so hard for so long that it all leads up to this moment. Do you think you can pull yourself together for just one more play? I'll try. That's my man, she said. You can go to the hospital after the game. When they saw me coming out to the huddle, the crowd erupted. Dinkelman! 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 This is it, guys, the quarterback said. Win or lose, make or break, it all comes down to this. Red, 49, left, triangle, on two. Got it? Not exactly, I said. Don't you remember the plays, Trip? His brain is fried from that hit he took, said one of the other players. It's simple, the quarterback told me. I'm going to fake the handoff to Ronnie and give it to you instead. Follow him right up the middle. It's 7 yards. Ronnie will clear the path, and you jump over the pile if you need to. Nothing fancy. But I thought I was a receiver, I said. You are, he said. This will completely fool them. We clapped hands and came out of the huddle. 24, 21, 2, hut, hut, hut. The quarterback took the snap, wheeled around, and faked the handoff to Ronnie. I followed right behind him, looking in front for a hole to run through. I felt something hard jammed into my gut. Stay tuned for Chapter 4.